Between the turkey, the pies, and the rolls, do you even have space left in your oven during Thanksgiving? Well, today I'm gonna show you some amazing sides that you can make in your crock pot. They're delicious. Everyone's gonna love them, and you don't have to take up all the oven space running that thing all day long, especially when you have, who knows, a 20-pound turkey in there just taking up all the space. Now the potato is a staple at a Thanksgiving table. I'm gonna be making these kind of like roasted potatoes with rosemary, but if you are a fan of mashed potatoes instead of cut potatoes, check out this video right here if you want crock pot mashed potatoes. You can get all different kinds of recipes here, so if this one doesn't do it for you, that's totally okay. We're just changing it up. I feel like no matter what, at your Thanksgiving table, you gotta have potatoes, no matter how they are styled, no matter what form they're in. Let's take a little bit of spray and spray the inside of the crock pot. You can use red potatoes if you want. I always have these little petite medley, is that what they're called? Creamer potatoes, something like that. We always have them available. We get them at Sam's. I am going to quarter each one of these and then just toss them in there. I've previously washed these so that they would be ready to go, but you just cut them into the sizes that you prefer. If you just want to cut them in half, that's also fine. These crock pot recipes for Thanksgiving are so easy, just crazy easy. Anybody can make them and they're gonna taste delicious. Everyone at your Thanksgiving table will love them. And one thing I love about using the crock pot at Thanksgiving, I don't know about you and where you live. So here, our weather can fluctuate for Thanksgiving. It could be 85 degrees on Thanksgiving Day, and then you've got extra people in your home and all the things, and your oven is cranked up to 450 degrees, or whatever it is that you've got, you know, your oven on. So your whole kitchen is heated up. Or it could be 30 degrees outside. You never know what to expect year to year here in the Carolinas. So I really like the crock pot because then I don't have to try and figure out an oven schedule. That is probably the most complicated part to me about Thanksgiving. I gotta make sure my turkey cooks all the way through, but I gotta make sure I take it out early enough that I can also put all the sides in there, and then somehow I gotta get the turkey back in there for long enough that it will reheat through and we're serving it hot. It's just a whole thing. And so I love the crock pot for making that kind of like organization of the kitchen and the schedule of everything so much easier. Now, obviously, depending on the amount of people that you're serving, you want to adjust how many potatoes you're putting in here. This is probably 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of potatoes, but you could you could fill this thing up, right? Or this is a rather small crock pot. You could really, really add a lot. Okay, I'm gonna take some avocado oil and add just about a tablespoon. You could add more if you feel like you need more. I don't really think it needs more than that because we're also adding butter. So let's add about 2 tablespoons of butter, and that to me is really what takes these kind of potatoes over the top. You just get that buttery, enriched flavor. So good. Okay, about 2 tablespoons in there. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of dried rosemary. You can also use fresh if that's your preference. We actually have some fresh, and I might end up topping this with a little bit of fresh because I do think that would be really good. Let's add a pinch of salt. I also personally like to add a touch of onion powder and garlic powder. So in between a half teaspoon and a teaspoon. I don't really feel like you can go too heavy with these, or it's just going to enhance the flavor. And then we need to add some cloves of garlic. We're going to mince these. I think 4 is a good amount. It might seem like a lot, but that's what these are. These are garlic butter potatoes. So you want a good amount of butter in there. I mean, garlic, well, butter too. But now we're just gonna toss these around a little bit, just getting that flavor all over the potatoes. Get that butter around in there. I mean, it's gonna melt and it's, all gonna come together, but all right. Just want to make sure that we've got good flavor here. It's looking good here. This is a perfect amount for our family. Put the lid on. I'm going to cook mine on low for about 4 hours. You can cook these on high for 2 to 3, but I have enough time to go ahead and let them cook for longer, so I'm going to do that. And then we'll come back. We are going to add some Parmesan cheese because it takes them over the top. All right, y'all, these potatoes are done. So let's finish them off. I've got some grated Parmesan cheese that we're gonna put here on top, just adding some great flavor. Now, normally I would take these out and serve them on a really pretty platter, especially if I were actually doing this on Thanksgiving. But because we don't have a dishwasher right now, I am not gonna do that. I'm just gonna leave them right here and serve them out of the crock pot to save myself some dishes. Now, you can add parsley to the top, but I do think that thyme is really pretty here. So that's what I'm gonna add. Rosemary, if you have fresh rosemary that's nice and green, that's another great option. All right, our potatoes are ready to serve. And look how pretty. And so simple. All right, friends, we have the Parmesan potatoes from the crock pot. Really good Thanksgiving option if you just wanna have something different than mashed potatoes.
That's really good.
They're really good. The potatoes are really, really good and super easy to make. 2.5 minutes that I stood here and made those, and then they're completely ready.
That's yummy.
But yeah, that Parmesan, adding a little bit of that rosemary, some thyme on the top, they're perfect. So personally, I feel like you can't even have Thanksgiving without green bean casserole, but I'm also very aware that not everyone likes green bean casserole. I love it. I think it's delicious. I will eat just that and be perfectly happy. But for those of you that are like, not really my thing, I don't really like the flavors, I've got a very simple green bean recipe for you that it's one of those that it's simple, but it's just so good, and they've been cooking in the crock pot so they get to the perfect consistency, and they just have the best simple flavor. And so you gotta have green beans on your Thanksgiving table. So let's just add them. Now for this recipe, I do prefer fresh green beans, and I like the French cut. That's just a personal preference, but it doesn't have to be. Also, we're using my large crock pot because I'm currently using the other one, and this is a very large crock pot for this amount of green beans. Now listen, you gotta add butter. These are gonna need butter. For real good flavor, you need butter. This is probably 3 to 4 tablespoons, and I know that's a lot, but nobody said Thanksgiving was healthy. Nobody. Okay, we do need to add some salt. Similar flavors to the potatoes that we've made. I'm gonna add some onion powder. Love that. Gotta add some garlic powder. Now, this is something that you can absolutely leave out if you're not a fan, but I do think just the slightest touch of crushed red pepper flakes it does add a little bit of spice, but it also adds kind of like a depth to it. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of this, okay, like an 1/8 teaspoon. It's really barely any, but there's just something about it. I feel like it's worth it. And then we are gonna add 4 minced garlic cloves. This recipe is so simple and so easy, but it's got all the flavors that just work really well with green beans. So it's a good option. Maybe you're one of those that you have green bean casserole at your table, but you also wanna make something for people that don't really like green bean casserole. Shame on them. This is an easy one because literally I just put this whole thing together in 2.5 minutes and it's done. Now we just cook it in the crock pot. Very, very easy. It's not something that you have to put a lot of effort or energy into, and you have another green bean option for everybody. Now, if you want to do this a little differently, you can also saute your butter and your garlic in a pan and then pour it over the green beans. This is gonna add that kind of like brown butter-ish kind of flavor. So it does add a little more depth to the butter. It's totally up to you, depending on how much time you have. If you have the time, 100% recommend, because there's something about brown butter. It's like a toasted butter. I can't even explain the flavor of it. If you've never had brown butter, it is chef's kiss, absolutely delicious. So if you have the time to do that, you might wanna consider it and pour it over the green beans, then let them cook. Delicious that way. But if you really don't have a lot of time and you just wanna throw together an easy, simple green bean recipe that everybody will love, this is so, so easy. All right, this cooks on low for about 3 to 4 hours. So it's perfect to just have in your kitchen going while everything else is cooking. All right, green beans. I prefer my green beans to be a little crunchy. I think our kids don't, and every time I take them to the table this way, they're like, these aren't done.
Yeah, her kids and her husband. That was new to me when I married you. Is in the back of my mind in those early years, I'm thinking, I'm not sure she knows how to cook green beans.
I don't want them mushy.
Or even noodles.
Remove all.
Because
You're the one that wants to take noodles out before they're done. I think they taste fresher if they still have a little bit of crisp to them.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you don't want that at all, just cook them a little bit longer, probably an hour longer, and you're gonna get your mushy green beans. But I prefer them to hold their crisp. Also, if you're using fresh green beans, you're gonna get more, that crisp is gonna hang out there. If you're using frozen or canned or something like that, then they're gonna cook up way faster.
Right.
But the flavor on these, it's so simple, but it's just perfect. That butter, the garlic, the salt, those kind of flavors, they work so well to just have a simple green bean side for those people at Thanksgiving that don't like green bean casserole.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you love green bean casserole that much.
It depends, because people make it different ways, so it does depend.
Yeah. So for those people that don't, this is a great option, and you made it in the crock pot and you barely had to do anything.
Yep.
I'm gonna start with some crock pot fried apples. They're not really fried, obviously. These are Honey Crisp apples. You need about 3 pounds or so of these apples. I thought I had an apple thingy, you know, the corer and the slicer. So you start the process. These are so good, by the way, really delicious. So much flavor. Everybody enjoys these. I'm gonna skip past this portion where I'm literally just going to be peeling apple after apple. Now, if you have an apple, one of my friends had a machine where you put it on the counter and you crank it and it peels and cores the apples. That was amazing. I don't have anything like that. So this is gonna be old school today. We're just gonna use our regular vegetable peeler and get these things done. Now, we cut our recipe down quite a bit, but feel free to make more. We just don't need all of the amount that the recipe calls for. I'm going to cut these into slices, kind of slices. They're about a 1/2 inch thick, maybe. Just, you know, whatever your preference is as far as those go. One thing I do like to do is make sure that all the tough place where the seed was, I like to cut that out. I don't like that when I get a bite of that in these apples. Now, I am using tapioca flour in place of cornstarch. We are gonna add 1 tablespoon of this. And because I'm cutting this recipe down, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is one of those like baking recipes that can be kind of, you know, so-and-so. It doesn't have to be exact, but I'm adding about 1/8 cup of brown sugar. And then we will also add about 1/8 cup of regular sugar. About 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. This is one of those that I would add however much cinnamon you like. If you like a lot more cinnamon, you really want that flavor, add a little more. And also about 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. A few tablespoons of butter. I'm using salted butter. You can melt it if you want to kind of mix it all in ahead of time. And then just around 1 teaspoon of, this is lemon juice. So easy. Mix this together. Just give it a toss. It's all going to come together in the crock pot anyway. It's going to make its own juices, which is perfect. We are going to cook this on high for 2 hours until the apples are nice and tender, and it'll be ready to eat. Literally, that's how easy this is. Let's put this insert into the crock pot and turn it on high. I think you could eat these apples as a side dish or even as a dessert. They just like dissolve. They just melt. They are so delicious, perfectly sweet. These were the perfect apples to use for these two. Very good. You would even eat that with a little bit of ice cream. Oh yeah, that would be delicious. Our verse today comes from John 14:27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. If you want your holiday to feel a little easier this year, you gotta try one of these sides, and make sure to check out the video that I've shown above for even more cozy make-ahead ideas. There are several other ideas here. You don't wanna miss them. Don't forget to subscribe, especially if you're new here. You can also hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. I hope you're having a great week.